Hello, YouTube Live, as an airplane flies overhead. This is actually my first time going live on YouTube. I've been wanting to do this for a while, so I thought, what better day than today? If you don't know me, I'm Sara Haley, and I am a pre- and postnatal exercise specialist, which is why I am talking about this topic today, which I am debunking 3 myths about exercising during pregnancy. 3 myths that make me crazy when I hear about it. And I'm talking about this because I know a lot of you who have found me on YouTube are because you've been researching exercise during pregnancy or postnatal recovery, or because you've had a diastasis recti, which is the separation of the abdominals. If you want to know more about that, just search around my YouTube channel. So the first myth that I am going to talk about is, and if you've been pregnant, I know you've heard it, do not get your heart rate above 140 beats per minute. Such a myth. Now, at one point, it used to be a rule, like back in the 80s, and the College of Obstetricians and Gynecology made this rule. It's known as ACOG. And I actually use it as my pregnancy Bible. As a specialist, I do follow the rules that are in there. However, that rule was taken away by ACOG in the 90s, in the early 90s. So it hasn't been true for a really long time. So you might say to me, well, Sara, then how do I monitor my cardio during pregnancy? And I've made quite a few videos about how to do this. So I will hopefully in post send you to those videos. But real quickly, yes, you are working and breathing for 2 when you are pregnant. And that usually means that you go breathless more easily, right? Or quicker. And it's because you have got so much more blood pumping in you. However, you and I are probably not at the same fitness level. You and your best friend probably aren't. You and your mom, you and your, siblings, whoever. You and your best friend. I think I already said that. You'll have to excuse, there are moments of pregnancy brain. So there's no reason that we should just pick a number that's the same for everybody, right? We all have different fitness levels that we are at prior to our pregnancy. And then that often changes depending on what kind of pregnancy we're having, and how we're just feeling that day or what trimester you're in. So an arbitrary number should not be something to guide you during your pregnancy. Again, watch the videos where I talk about what should be your guidelines. I'll give you this much real quickly. If you can talk out loud while you're doing cardiovascular activity, and if you can make sure that you're not getting overheated, those are 2 really great things to go by rather than this arbitrary 140 beats per minute. Okay? So it's not true. And I do know that some doctors still use that guideline. Honestly, it's probably because they don't know what to tell you, and that's why they give you, again, an arbitrary number. Okay? Unless they haven't read ACOG in, what are we looking at, almost 30 years? Which, then you might need to change your doctors. Okay, number 2. No heavy lifting during pregnancy. Now, keep in mind, everything that I'm talking about pretty much goes out the window if you have a high-risk pregnancy or you've been given your doctor's orders. I by no means want to go against what your doctor is telling you, unless they're still telling you 140 beats per minute. And maybe they're giving you that as a guideline because they know you're a crazy fitness fanatic, or maybe because you are high risk or have twins or are carrying twins or multiples. So keep in mind there are exceptions to all of these rules. And usually, if you obviously you've been put on bed rest, you're not supposed to be doing any of these things. And honestly, you guys, if you've been put on bed rest, it's been for a good reason. Do not do otherwise. But in general, I've heard people say, don't lift heavy during your pregnancy. I've also heard the opposite, right? And it's like, don't lift more than 3 pounds. Okay, well, hopefully you are lucky enough to have more than a 3-pound baby. Hopefully you're lucky enough to have more than a 5-pound baby. If you're in my shoes, my 2 boys that I already have were 8.5 pounds inside my tiny body. And my baby right now, by the way, if you didn't know, I'm like 34 weeks pregnant. is already weighing 5 pounds. So I am married to a much larger man than myself. I love you, honey, but this is not one of my favorite things about being married to you, having these large babies. And so, I'm going to be lifting right out of the gun like almost 10 pounds because, my babies gain weight pretty quickly. Knock on wood, this one too. And within 2 weeks, I'm, carrying around 10 pounds. So I want to be prepared for that. So when we talk about no heavy lifting, am I personally a fan of doing CrossFit exercises? I probably need to do a whole video about that. I am not, because it can affect your pelvic floor. Like if we're lifting to extreme measures, even if you've been doing it prior to your pregnancy, a lot of that can affect your pelvic floor, and you might not even feel it during your pregnancy. It might not be until post. But can you lift weight that feels challenging, that makes you sweaty, that makes you work hard, that gets you stronger? Hell yes. And I would honestly really recommend it. Again, if you are having a really safe and healthy pregnancy, that's what you need to be doing. You need to be picking up more than 3-pound weights, but at the same time, you don't need to go to any extremes. I hope that's clear. And again, this is my professional opinion, and you might ask somebody else who could tell you something differently. But I think if you go and look at my resume and some of my work at sarahaley.com, you'll see where I'm coming from. Okay, so that's number 2. I'm debunking the fact that you can't lift heavy, and also that you should lift light. It's like somewhere in between. Lifting functionally. That's how I should say it. Lifting functionally. Lifting enough weight that you can function in real life and continue to lift up things. I have an amazing husband, but oftentimes he'll say to me, what would you do if I wasn't here? Like if I'm like, can you lift that, honey? Can you carry the laundry upstairs? He's like, what would you do if I wasn't here? And the truth is he is right. And I would probably carry it up the stairs myself. But before I did that, I would make sure I engaged my core. I would use my legs to lift. And that's also why I work out, so that I can do these things. And I don't rely on my husband for those things unless it's something that he happens to be around for. Okay, so that's number 2. Number 3 is no core work. I am debunking that, right? Here's the deal with the core work, and I have lots to say about this because I have lots of experience in it, both personally and with clients. You want to avoid, there are certain exercises, core exercises that you want to avoid. And if you go to pregnancycoreexercises.com, you can get a free video from me that shows all of these exercises, that, not all of them, but the main ones that you should avoid during pregnancy. But I also give you ones that you can replace them with. So yes, I am not going to recommend crunches during your pregnancy. I am not going to recommend extreme twisting. I'm not going to recommend you going into up dog. Those are the biggest ones that come to mind at the moment. But you can work your abs. You can work your obliques, right? So we're looking at this right here, my abs, my obliques, and everything that supports this. So my hips, my chest, my back, all of those muscle groups are the ones that are most important to work so that you can have a really healthy and supportive core during your pregnancy. Because not only is that going to help you during your pregnancy, it's going to help support the baby and keep you strong, but when you go to work those muscles in postnatal, in your postpartum recovery, they are going to snap back if they know what to do. But if you haven't been using them at all and you've just been saying no core work, period, that's when you also run into problems. But on the flip side, right, if you are doing those exercises that are working your abs in the wrong way and are exasperating certain elements of what should be happening during your pregnancy, right? I mean, your baby is growing, and if you're trying to counteract that with crunches, then you are going to end up with things like diastasis recti, where the abs separate too much, right? And there is a chance that could happen anyway. I've had a slight diastasis myself because I am this petite person that has these really big babies. But yeah, I will be the first one to say, are there exercises that I could have done less of in my first pregnancy just because the the knowledge and the research wasn't there. During my first pregnancy, we were still talking that like planks were a really good idea to do as replacement crunches, and now all the research shows that planks aren't the best exercise to be executing during your pregnancy, especially as you get farther and farther along. Same thing with push-ups. It's just too much pressure on the core and on those muscles that are trying to do, to a certain extent, their job in creating room for this baby. I hope that makes sense. If not, you guys, I have a playlist on, or if you want more information, I have a playlist on my YouTube channel that is all about diastasis recti, exercises to do, exercises to avoid, why you might look pregnant even though you're not, how to test for diastasis, all kinds of stuff. So make sure you check that out. I'll try to link to that as well. So that's my advice on core work. Work your core, but work it smartly and safely and effectively. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I hope that you will join me next time. Bye.